I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with the head. Intercepted. 30. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
It all comes down to this for the 9-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With a win on Sunday, the Buccaneers would clinch the NFC South for the 4th consecutive year, and they would secure a home playoff game on Super Wildcard Weekend. A victory would also mark a 10-win season, which would be a visible improvement from their 2023 campaign. The Buccaneers in the same position they were a year ago. Win and you're in, with a division opponent standing in their way who would love nothing more than to play upset on their season here in the final week of the regular season. But welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this brand new episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. There we go. Sorry, it was going to fall apart at some point. Live on YouTube today. The beauty of live broadcasting. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew. Joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish. Evan, for the Bucs, it quite literally all comes down to this weekend. If they lose, there's still a chance they make the postseason, but it wouldn't be in very convincing fashion, to be honest with you. They are 14-point favorites on Sunday.
No, it wouldn't. I mean, losing 2 of your last 3, but still winning the division, making the playoffs would literally be the definition of you're just winning a division because you're the best of the worst, basically. So yeah, that wouldn't. I don't think that would leave a. I mean, look, they'd still be grateful to be winning the division, hosting a playoff game, but there'd be a little bit of like a sour taste in the mouth, I guess you could say. Especially, you're at home and you're against the Saints team that simply hasn't been good, right? I mean, they haven't been good, and they got shut out by the Packers 2 weeks ago. Then last week, they only scored 10 points against the Las Vegas Raiders. And I mean, the Raiders are a bad football team. And they're a team that is just wanting to get out of this season, right? However, that doesn't mean that those players are just going to completely give up. So the Bucs are going to have to show up here. Obviously, 14-point favorites, pretty nuts. To be honest with you, I can tell you right now that line will not be on betting with the Bucs. I'm not bold enough to take that either way. Whether it's 14 for the Saints or 14 for the Bucs, I can't take that. But there's a lot of things obviously in this game, right? Like you mentioned, the Bucs have a chance to clinch the NFC South for a franchise record 4th straight year. They've never done that before, so could make even more history this coming week. Secure a 10-win season, which would be the first time they've had double-digit wins since 2021. So that would be also pretty cool. And it just, you have a chance to beat a division opponent for your division yet again and have an opportunity to host another playoff game. Now, that's the only way the Buccaneers can make the playoffs now. They cannot make the playoffs as a wild card team. That's not an option anymore. All the wild card teams are locked up. So you're either winning the division or you're sitting at home next week. It's one of 2 options for the Bucs here. And hopefully they don't have to worry about the Falcons losing. So that's the scenario, right? The Buccaneers can lose. If the Falcons also lose, if the Bucs lose and the Falcons tie, as long as the Falcons don't win, that's the only way that the Falcons would win the NFC South and the Bucs would not. But hopefully you don't have to deal with that, right? Hopefully you take care of your own business and you don't even have to worry about what Atlanta's doing. So hopefully that's the case, but we'll have to wait and see what happens on Sunday. But a lot at stake for the Bucs, and a lot of long-term futures too. I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show, and I mentioned this to somebody else. It might have been my dad the other day. I was like, that's like with this Saints team right now, you lose this game, and this is the type of loss that gets Todd Bowles fired. Like this is the type of loss you simply cannot have. I mean, it would be completely unacceptable on so many levels, but hopefully we don't get to that point.
Well, and I think it's solely because of the amount of times the Bucs have been in the exact situation they are now. they are in control of their own destiny, which a lot of teams have to be grateful for this late in the season. There's been a couple of times this year where the Bucs have just had to continue to play winning football, and they couldn't do it. So if they can't do it this Sunday, I think it says a lot about where the team is, and I guess compared to where they want to be, I think is a better way of phrasing that. But another thing on the line for the Buccaneers this week, a 5th straight playoff appearance, which has never happened in the history of the franchise, which honestly makes, I think, us happy, because it extends the life of the show into January, into the new year. We got a little more Buccaneers content to talk about. So
we're almost not used to doing an offseason that early anymore.
Like, I know.
We wouldn't. It's like the Ricky Bobby thing. I don't know what to do with my hands if they don't make the playoffs.
If you go back and you listen to a podcast from, crazy to think about, but if you listen to a January episode from 7 years ago, we're talking about the draft. We're talking about free agent priorities. We're talking about the quarterback. What do the Bucs need to do with Jameis Winston? I mean, we have come a long way, and hopefully the winning will continue this week. But let's talk about the seeding scenario a little bit more before we dive into this week's game in particular. So the Rams are in a scenario where they have come out and said that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start at quarterback this week against Seattle. If the Rams lose that game and Seattle wins, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be the 3 seed.
Correct.
If the Rams win that game, the Bucs will be the 4 seed, and that will determine who the Buccaneers play. If they are the 3 seed, I want to say that they are most likely going to be playing Washington and a red-hot Jaden Daniels. If they are the 4 seed, it's going to be an NFC North opponent between either the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings, which are I would say all 3 of those are very scary matchups in their own right. But your thoughts on potential scenarios here?
Yeah, I mean, count your blessings that the Rams are sitting some guys. I mean, I understand that, like, it's the playoffs or whatever, but you're the 4 seed. You're going to be playing a team that has 14 wins. Like, one of those teams is going to, it's the Vikings versus the Lions this week for the division and the 1 seed. Massive game. But you're going to be playing a team in the wildcard round that has 14 wins. And I understand that the Bucs have beaten Detroit earlier in the year and stuff. I get it. But that doesn't mean they're going to do it again. And I'd prefer to not have my first playoff, my first round matchup to be against a team that has 14 wins. So that is a lot of football games that you are winning. And so I think the Rams, look, clearly they're not putting too much. I don't know why. I would play the starters at least a little bit. I'm not sure why they're sitting guys and just basically, almost conceding the 3 seed pretty much. But I mean, I think the Bucs, if you're the Tampa, you would welcome playing Washington much more than you would Detroit or Minnesota. Now, I mean, I will say, and we'll get into this, if Washington is the opponent and if the Bucs make the playoffs and all that good stuff, but this is obviously a different Washington team than the last time the Bucs saw them, right? Last time the Bucs saw them, it was week 1, so it's been a while. Jaden Daniels is a much different quarterback now. The defense is playing a little bit better, so it's a much different team. It's not going to be, I think, the 37-20 final that you saw in week 1 again, but I think I'd much rather play Washington than either one of Detroit or Minnesota. They just seem to present a lot more problems for you than Washington would. But yeah, that is the scenario. Rams lose, Bucs win. Bucs are the 3 seed. Rams win, Bucs win. Bucs are the 4 seed. So if the Bucs, if the Rams win, the Bucs are going to be the 4 seed and play the 5th seed in Tampa, which last year they were the 4th seed and played the 5th seed Eagles in Tampa. At that point, though, the Eagles obviously were a shell of themselves. They were a team that was just trying to get the season over with, basically, right? They had lost a bunch down the stretch. They had lost the division lead that they had to hold on. This is a little bit different with the Vikings or the Lions. And I think that'd be a pretty tough draw in round 1.
Yeah, I think the appeal of that Washington matchup that you had talked about as well is facing a rookie quarterback. I know Jaden Daniels has been red hot, probably going to be rookie of the year, but it adds a different element to the game when you talk about that game being in the playoffs. It is, a rookie quarterback's first time in the postseason.
On the road.
Say what you will about Todd Bowles, say what you will about this defense, but he has playoff experience. He has, seen a thing or two in the postseasons, and he's proven here down the stretch after the bye week that he's also really good at making adjustments on the defensive side of the ball as the game goes on. But Let's dive a little bit more into this week's matchup for Tampa Bay, the regular season finale. They get to do it in front of the home fans. They, I guess, unofficially retired the pewter uniforms. Maybe they're saving them for a rainy day in the postseason, but it will be red and pewter for the Buccaneers' final home game this year. Evan, the last time the Bucs played New Orleans, they put up a season-high amount of points. 51-27 was the final score of that game. They ran for 277 yards. I know it sounds kind of silly, but I want to believe that the main philosophy for Liam Cohen's offense from here on out, including the postseason, is to score as many points as possible. We've talked about the fast start, the importance of that for Tampa Bay in the past. They are 9-1 when they score first. They are 0-6 this year when they do not. I think if the end of the first quarter comes around and this looks like a dogfight going back and forth with a bad New Orleans team, it could be a frustrating afternoon for Tampa Bay. I got to think that they come out, keep the pedal down, and just do not look back.
Yeah, so we saw what the Bucs were able to do in 2 games against Carolina Panthers in terms of running the ball against a poor Panthers run defense. And we saw also what they were able to do against the New York Giants, when they had a poor run defense. The Saints are better than both those teams. But the Saints are the next team on that list in terms of run defenses. The Saints have allowed 139.1 yards on the ground per average per game. So that is 30th in the NFL. So the Saints are not a good run defense. They weren't a good run defense when the Bucs played them the first time. They're still not a good run defense now. So yeah, I would expect the Bucs to pound the rock. Get Bucky Irving involved a lot. Get Rachaad White involved also. I think you could see maybe a little bit more of Rachaad White in this game now that Bucky Irving has secured 1,000 yards. I think they wanted to get him that early on in that game, and that's why I think you saw a lot of him. But also, he's been their main back, so I'm not going to say that it's going to be, mostly Rachaad White, but I do wonder if you're going to see a little bit more of him to try and keep the rookie a little bit more fresh, maybe heading into a potential playoff game next week. But yeah, I would expect them to, I think the game plan is going to look a lot similar than when it did versus Carolina. I do. The Saints, obviously, the last time these two teams met, Marshawn Lattimore, actually, I was wrong a couple weeks ago. I said he didn't play. He did play. I believe he got injured in that game, but he did play. Now he's not there anymore. Paulson Adebo, who actually had an interception in that game the last time the Bucs and Saints played, I believe he is out. So the Saints are down. They're really shorthanded on defense in the secondary, and their run defense isn't good. So it could be yet another big day. I'm not saying 51 points, which, technically, what was it, 44 by the offense because they had the Antoine Winfield Jr. touchdown. But I'm not saying 51 points by the Bucs, but I could see fireworks along the offensive side of the ball once again this week.
I think it's also important to mention the second quarter slip-up the Buccaneers had in that 51-point day. That was the start of the hot streak, I think, of terrible second quarters for what felt like a month straight. But things really started to unravel, and I know 51-27 is the final score, but we were headed into that third quarter expecting another dogfight in that second half because the Saints were creeping their way back in, and a lot of it was just self-inflicted mistakes, which they also have to avoid this week.
I was rewatching a little bit of the game last night. I believe it was the fourth quarter. The Bucs were up 31-27. The Bucs were only up 4 in the fourth quarter. And then they kind of just, Spencer Rattler had 2 turnovers, and they just kind of, pulled away. But yeah, that game was close for most of it. The Bucs jumped out to that big lead, and then the Saints marched right back, and then the Bucs retook the lead, but then the game was kind of close until the Bucs pulled away there. So yeah, that was a roller coaster game there, and yeah, that second quarter, he had the punt return for a touchdown, then he had the interception, then he had the other touchdown, then he had another interception. So yeah, it seemed like the Bucs couldn't get out of their own way there. But and that's the thing that's been this offense's bugaboo, right? That's been the issue, getting in your own way, whether it be penalties, whether it be turnovers, because when they don't do that, when they don't commit those things, it's tough to stop them, and I just have a hard time seeing the Saints stop the Bucs on defense if the Bucs don't stop themselves.
Yeah, you had talked about their hang-up not being able to get out of their own way at times. I still hold firm on the belief that the only team that can slow down the Bucs, especially when the offense gets rolling, is the Bucs. Play clean football, take care of the football, and hopefully the run game can get going. But before we talk about the other side of the football here, we'll keep it going with the offense. Some of the guys stepping up this week. No Marshawn Lattimore for that Saints defense, and they have a couple of injuries as well to some of their starters over there. Mike Evans needs 80-something yards to get 1,000.
85 yards.
86 will do it. Does it get done this week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna now. Let me put it this way: they're gonna get him involved. They're not gonna put it ahead of winning. Right? Winning is the number one priority. They're not gonna care if Mike Evans gets 1,000 yards, the Bucs lose, and then they're sitting at home next week. They're not gonna care, and I'm sure Mike Evans will not care that he got his 1,000 yards and they're sitting at home the following week. So they're not gonna put it ahead of winning, but they're well aware. Liam Cohen even said at yesterday's press conference that everyone is well aware of where he is and what he needs to be, where he needs to be at. So I would expect early and often him to be targeted. I do wonder, how much really Cohen is going to scheme up, for Evans specifically. Maybe get him a couple of screens to get him 6 yards here, 7 yards here. But yeah, he's going to get that, especially with Lattimore now gone, a Debo out, and the Saints corners have struggled a good bit this year. So they haven't. I think Alante Taylor moved it from the slot outside, and it hasn't really worked out great for them. So I think there's a pretty good shot of Mike Evans getting it, and I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't. If he doesn't, it's not going to be for lack of effort. I'll tell you that. I think that the Bucs are going to try their darndest. Baker Mayfield, Liam Cohen, they're going to try their darndest to get him that. So hopefully he can stay healthy, go out there and get it done. I believe tie Jerry Rice for 11 consecutive seasons. So with 1,000 yards receiving, it's a shame because and he's 85 yards away with missing 3 games. So it sucks. This would be easy pickings. He might already have it right now if it weren't for those 3 games missed. But I would be pretty surprised if he didn't get it.
Some of the other guys on the offense looking to step up this week, focusing on pass catchers again. I know that the run game may end up being the star of the show because that's a favorable matchup, but I got a little too excited before the Dallas game. I don't want to do that again this week, so to avoid doing that, I want to talk to you about Jalen McMillan. Maybe Cade Otton back in the lineup this week. He made an appearance at practice this week, but if not, Payne Durham got his first career touchdown last week. We saw Devin Colt get the most snaps he's ever had in an NFL game, and he looked pretty damn good doing so as well. Do you like the hot streak to continue for Jalen McMillan this week? Because a lot of NFL defenses this time of year are going to make note of him finding the end zone as much as he has.
Yeah, you are right about that, right? The more production you have, the more put on notice you're going to have those defensive coordinators, right? All right, well, yeah, stop Mike Evans, but this McMillan guy's been scoring a crap ton, So I do think they're going to look to slow him down, but also I think the Bucs are going to look to get him involved because it can't just be the Mike Evans show, right? I don't think that's an efficient offense for them, and that hasn't been their offense this year, right? It's been spreading the ball around, having a lot of guys maybe with 1 or 2 catches, but both those catches went for 16 yards or whatever. Like Ryan Miller, I think, had a catch last week for 20 some yards, and that was his only catch. Like Devin Cope only had a handful of catches. So I mean, I think Raheem Jarrett had, I think, 1 or 2 catches, but it was impact plays. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to force feed the ball to Mike Evans, which would allow Jalen McMillan to get some looks as well. But, yeah, don't think defenses are going to ignore him anymore, right? I mean, it's going to be something they're going to try and slow down, too. Makes it tougher, right? It makes it a lot tougher when you have Mike Evans there. You're like, oh, man, I got to worry about this guy, too. That's obviously the luxury that the Bucs have had for so long with having Chris Godwin in the fold. Now that he's not there right now, McMillan hopefully can step up one more time, maybe keep that streak alive, right? Close out the year 5 straight games with a touchdown. That'd be pretty neat for Jim. 2 of those games, potentially 2 of those games. It could be 3 of those games, being multi-touchdown games. So it would be pretty cool for the rookie to close out what I think is I'd say a solid rookie season. I wouldn't say great. He hit the lull there mid-season. He kind of disappeared. Didn't really do a whole lot. Got injured, was a little bit banged up, missed a game or 2. So I'd say A solid rookie season, though, for Jalen McMillan. Could see him find the end zone. Excuse me. Could see him find the end zone again. Would not shock me whatsoever.
I got to tell you, looking for this offensive line here to step
Oh,
up.
really quick,
And,
really quick.
yeah.
K. Dotton is a game time decision.
Yeah.
Todd Bowles said that today. That you mentioned K. Dotton, so he is a game time decision for that game. So getting a little bit closer. Anthony Field Jr. and Jim Maldine are both out. But yeah, K. Dotton game time decision.
Well, K. Dotton, his status goes hand in hand with the conversation in the trenches here. The offensive line, no matter who's at tight end, K. Dotton proving he could be a valuable blocker this year. They got to step up. I think it's going to be another week of a clean pocket for Baker Mayfield. You know, in the games that Baker has unraveled, we've talked about him getting happy feet, not really anticipating the pocket as he should, getting away from it, right, and then running into a sack. I thought last week the Bucs offensive line in particular did a really good job at not only handling that Carolina pass rush, but giving Baker a lot of opportunities to feel more comfortable in the pocket. He was stepping up into the pocket, making these throws and looking very comfortable. There were a couple of times last week where he had a full 4 or 5 seconds of protection in the pocket to just stand there and make decisions. And we saw him play as well as he did last week. So I think if the offensive line can really slow these guys down who haven't been explosive. I mean, you know, Chase Young has been productive against the Bucs in the past. They're always going to have Cam Jordan on that defensive line. Demario Davis at the middle linebacker position, always prone to making a play. All those veteran players you got to be aware of, but I think Tristan Wirfs, Luke Gedeke, and the rest of the boys up front, I expect another clean week for Baker Mayfield, to be honest with you.
I forgot my train of thought. Anyways, I was gonna make a joke. Forgot the joke. That happens. But you're right. I mean, yeah, there we go. At least I got some claps. There we go. Yeah, but you're right about that. When the Bucs offense has struggled, when Baker Mayfield has struggled, it's been a lot of times, you know. And look, this isn't just a Baker thing. This is a lot of NFL offenses. If you can affect the quarterback, you know, rushing the passer, that's gonna help your chances of succeeding in the NFL. But I mean, you know, the Denver game, right, is a game that books out. The Dallas game, though, right? Because let's say that Denver game, 26-7. Okay, the Dallas one was a close one, though, right? And that was a game where just the Dallas pass rush, their blitzes were hitting. The Bucs offensive line struggled sometimes. There was other times they were pretty good, and obviously last week they were really good. So yeah, this is a Saints team that isn't like great at rushing the passer, but they still do have some dudes, as you mentioned, and I do think it's important to keep him upright and keep him, you know, having time, because yeah, you don't want it to unravel, right? I think you want full control of this game from the jump, and because if you don't have full control, anything weird stuff can happen, right? You saw New Orleans last year, earlier. Well, it was last year technically.
Yeah, there you
earlier go. This season, you saw, you know, some weird stuff happen in that game, right? The one interception, right? It goes off of the helmet and Cam Jordan, you know, catches it. One goes off of Jim McMillan's hands and into the arms of a Saints defender. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened, and when you don't have control of a ball game, that can happen. And hopefully, the Bucs offensive line is up to the challenge. I think they will be. I trust this offensive line. I think it's one of the better offensive lines in football. So I don't really think, like, I'm not saying that there won't be any pressure, but like, I don't think that it's going to be a case where Mayfield's under duress all game.
Yeah, no, I agree. For the Saints on the offensive side of the ball, they come into this game handcuffed in a way. They are very limited with their playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Wide receiver Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, who has really broken out over the last season, and Taysom Hill, all those guys are on IR. So really, they are running this offense through Alvin Kamara, who is having a decent season in his own right. He is just 50 rushing yards away from his first career 1,000-yard rushing season, which is kind of crazy if you think about how long he's been in the NFL and specifically how long he has terrorized the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to have to prepare for him yet again this week. I think he is the main focus that they need to shut down here. I'm not really worried about either one of the New Orleans quarterbacks here.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, though, is Kamara might not even play.
Yeah, his
he hasn't
status up in the
practiced. He
air.
didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. Has a groin injury, so I don't know. We'll see. I mean, this it's not Kamara. This Saints offense could be really watered down. So we'll have to wait and see. Kamara's obviously done some damage against the Buccaneers. Well, a lot of damage against the Buccaneers in his career.
And I wish I could remember who it was, but I saw someone post on Twitter the other day a clip from 2018, the game in Tampa, where he basically jogged for 140 yards.
That 27. That was the New Year's Eve game. That was the game that Chris Godwin's first career touchdown.
Okay, so it was 2017.
That was Godwin's first career touchdown. Yeah. Yeah, he jogged. Yeah, the kickoff return. He just jogged.
I mean, he still, to this day, makes it look that easy at times.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's had some big games, obviously, against Tampa. But we'll see if he plays, right? We'll see. If he does play, the Bucs will have to stop him. The run defense has been pretty good, though, right? I mean, teams haven't really tried. But at the same time, I assume they're going to be starting Spencer Rattler. That's what I'd assume. It's going to be either Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener. But the last 2 weeks, I Bleav, it's been Spencer Rattler. So I would assume it's going to be Spencer Rattler. When you have a rookie quarterback like that, though, you can't always throw the ball, 40 times. So I think they're going to want to get Kamara involved and whoever the running back is in there, right? Whoever it may be. I'm not sure. I think Kendre Miller is playing. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I don't know how much, if Kamara plays, how limited is he going to be, right? Is he going to play, the whole game? It's week 18. You're not going to the playoffs. Who knows, right? We'll see.
If it's not Kendre Miller at running back, it could be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't know if they have to activate him this week. Yeah. But they did sign him a couple of weeks ago, so it'll be a combination of him. Maybe Jamal Williams in there as well. We saw him get some snaps against Tampa Bay the last time these two teams played. Also, the last time these two teams played, the Buccaneers defense sacked Spencer Rattler 5 times. And they also had 2 takeaways, 2 interceptions on the day from the young rookie quarterback. So I think that's going to be another key on defense. You can neutralize Alvin Kamara. If you force them to have to throw the ball, Spencer Rattler is a guy that you can, pun intended, you can rattle him into making mistakes here. And I think the edge rushers are going to be a huge key this week, but want to get your thoughts on the potential re-debut of the unretired newest Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Shaquille Barrett, at outside linebacker, number 56, the good old Shaq.
The re-debut of the unretired newest Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Yeah,
does that make sense? Is that an accurate statement?
It does.
This guy, this unretired free agent Tampa Bay Buccaneer, also just so happens to hold the franchise record for single sacks in a season at 19 and a half.
Yeah, it's not just some random dude that's coming in. But yeah, we'll see. He spoke to reporters, said that obviously he doesn't feel like he's ready for a full game, which I don't blame him. So I do think he'll suit up, though. I don't know how much he'll play. But yeah, I would expect him to suit up. I mean, he also did note that, which I don't know, like, I wonder if this dude just didn't want to be in Miami, because we mentioned about wanting to play in 2025. And I mean, that doesn't like guarantee that it's going to be in Tampa. Like the Bucs may say, like, look, like, we're not really interested in that or whatever. But like, yeah, so like, he might go elsewhere maybe in 20, like, if he wants to continue playing. I don't know. It was a weird situation there. With the whole Dolphins thing. But yeah, Shaq might be making his return to the lineup in a limited capacity. And again, a limited capacity is important to note, because I don't want people to go out there expecting 2019 or 2020 or even 2021 Shaq Barrett. That's not realistic. So yeah, we'll see if he can provide some sort of, maybe not a boost like in production, but like a boost in terms of energy, right? A spark in terms of that. His leadership ability, obviously he's been there, done that. And most of these guys have been around him before, right? It's only a couple guys that haven't. But I think, yeah, it can only benefit getting him some reps here.
You get 1 or 2 splash plays a game from the outside linebacker position. I feel like that's a better average than we've had all year. So, for Shaq Barrett, again, not expecting him to change the world here, but any production is good production along this Buccaneers defensive line. And highlighting some of these other guys here who need to step up. The edge rushers, Chris Braswell got his first career sack last week. Maybe he gets some more snaps this week because I know that the Buccaneers are in a position to play for the postseason. They have a couple more games, but you're talking about some decisions that still have to be made roster-wise on the defensive line. Does Chris Braswell get a big uptick in snaps this week? Because I think it's a great opportunity for him to do so.
He could. I think he's earned it, right? I mean, he had the sack, strip sack technically on Sunday, which was beating that tackle like a drum. I mean, was just beating him consistently over and over again. So, Braswell definitely, is a guy that I think has earned some more reps. I think he has. So we'll wait and see how much he plays. Because obviously the previous few games he wasn't really playing much at all. So we'll see. And this time, obviously, in that situation last week, it was a blowout. So how much would he have played had the game been closer? But yeah, I think he's earned some more reps for sure. He's earned another look, and I'm curious to see if he does get those, and if he does, how explosive does he look?
Going into keys to victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here as we start to really wrap things up. Wanted to go back on the offense. Baker Mayfield, 1 touchdown away from 40 touchdowns on the season, which he's obviously already at a career high. But Tom Brady holds the single season record at 44. Another 5 touchdown day for Baker Mayfield against the Saints would tie that record. And I got to say, that's not production that I don't think either one of us expected anytime soon, to be honest with you. He hasn't done it yet. Still has yet to get there. I think he is currently third behind Tom Brady and Tom Brady with 44 and 40. He is currently at 39. But, I mean, what does another good performance here for Baker Mayfield do as we warm up for the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, well, for starters, I don't think anybody expected that. I mean,
No.
Come on. Like if you honestly expected, when they signed him, if you expected this, I don't know what to tell you. You're either the biggest Baker fan in the world or you're just the biggest optimist in the world. I don't know, but I don't know if you could really expect that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, last year was a bargain on the contract they got him, and now this year I think he's the 19th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And a lot of people were complaining about the contract when it was signed. Oh, it's too much money, this and that, but it was an average. I think it literally ranked 15th or 16th in the NFL at the time it was signed. That's it's the average salary. That's league average, So, and now he's actually below league average. So, yeah, I mean, it's been great. It's been really everything that they've asked for and more. I don't think even Jason Light expected this type of production, out of the quarterback position so quickly after Tom Brady had left. And I don't expect. I mean, look, I'd be very shocked if Baker Mayfield broke the record that Tom Brady set. That'd be 6 passing touchdowns on Sunday. I don't know if that's gonna happen. And I don't know if 5 touchdowns is even going to happen either. That's a really, really good day. But yeah, I mean, I think he's going to reach 40. He might even get over 40. And it's been, a great year. Obviously, the best year of his career. And hopefully he can continue to build on this, right? Because he's got 2 more years under contract with Tampa. And, he's still young enough. I think he's, 29 or so? So not even 30 years old yet. So he's still got a few more years before, you can really say, well, he's getting up there in age. So there's still a good bit ahead. And hopefully, he can continue to be productive. Hopefully, they can keep a lot of the offensive pieces in place. Guys like Mike Evans makes his job easier, right? Chris Godwin makes his job easier. The offensive line makes his job easier. Liam Cohen makes his job easier. So hopefully, they can keep a lot of those pieces around for the years to come. And who knows what's going to happen in the future? But he's been really good this year, and it's been pretty fun to watch. And when he's on, right? And when he's on, he's a really, really fun player to watch. And occasionally he'll get off, and it can be a little frustrating. But hopefully on Sunday he's on for, like he was on last Sunday, on for pretty much a full 4 quarters.
We got a quick thread here from Greg Allman at Fox Sports on where Baker Mayfield's 2024 season ranks in Buccaneers quarterback history and where he can finish after Sunday's finale versus the Saints. This kind of expanding what I had said about the touchdown record. So for Baker right now, he is third in touchdown passes with 39, behind 2 Tom Brady seasons with 40 and 43. 4 touchdowns would tie the record. 5 would break it. He is 5th in passing yards all time with 4,279 behind Brady's 3 years in Tampa and Jameis Winston's last. He is on pace for 4,546. He would need 355 to get 4th, and again with the help of a 17th game. He is 3rd in yards per attempt behind Ryan Fitzpatrick's 2018 season where he had 9.6, which is kind of insane, and Jameis Winston's 2019 season where he had 8.2. He is 1st in all-time passer rating at 107.6, well ahead of Tom Brady's best season in Tampa Bay, which was 102.2 in 2020. He is also 1st in completion percentage at 71.7, well ahead of Brian Griese's team record of 69.3 in 2004. He could miss his first 18 passes on Sunday and still have the record. It's safe to say that, yeah, like you said, I think a lot of people were optimistic that Mayfield would be the right choice. And even after last season, he played the best statistical season of his career with Dave Canales as his offensive coordinator. The increase in production this season with Liam Cohen, I think, kind of means 2 things. One, that Baker is capable of doing much more and being much more explosive when he has the supporting cast around him. And 2, Liam Cohen is a damn good offensive coordinator, and the Buccaneers cannot let him leave at by any means. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it because we've had that conversation time and time again. So yeah, Baker Mayfield's production this season really hasn't been talked about enough. And I want to make sure that we do that here. Some final thoughts before we get into the score predictions here, looking on the offensive side of the ball. Is it another runaway performance for Bucky Irving and the Bucs run game this week? Because again, like I said, I got a little overconfident about the matchup the Bucs had against Dallas, and this offense didn't do a damn thing. Too little, too late on primetime against Dallas. Now, it helps that they're playing at 1 o'clock, not on primetime, but this is a game, this is an opponent, this is a scenario that has been stingy in the past. So how do you feel about the run game this week? I mean, is it, Bucky Irving over on all of his props again? Because I bet you his line is somewhere around 80 yards.
I'm sure it's probably more than that, to be honest with you. Yeah. I haven't checked them, but stay tuned to Betting the Bucs.
There you go.
Stay tuned for that. 4-0 last week, so I think if you guys want free money, I mean, just tune in. But yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna feed him, right? I think you're gonna see a heavy dose of Bucky Irving. Again, I don't know if you're gonna see it as consistently early on in the game. I think the Bucs were really trying to make an effort to get him 1,000 yards quickly in that game. Obviously, I know he needed like 80, so it wasn't like he was gonna get it on a singular. Go ahead.
83.5.
Okay. All right. Is that just rushing?
Just rushing.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Like I said, that may be on the ticket. That may be on the final ticket of the regular season for Betting the Bucs. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, just looking at the matchup, right? The matchup really is favorable, but they had a favorable matchup against Dallas a couple weeks ago, and they didn't even try and run the ball. And I understand there was a portion in the fourth quarter where they were down multiple scores. I get that. But I mean, even in the first half, they didn't really try and run the football, and I don't understand why they didn't. One of the more confusing game plans might be the most confusing game plan from Liam Cohen all season, to be honest with you, as to why they didn't attack that Dallas run defense a little bit more. But I would expect them to run the rock with Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. And maybe Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker had a unbelievable day against the Saints last time these two teams played. So maybe they give him a little bit of Tucker as well, especially if the game gets out of hand. Maybe you'll see some of Tucker. But yeah, I would expect the Bucs to still run the ball, try and do that with a lot of success as they have been, throughout the entire season, and sort of make life easier for the quarterback.
Since the bye week, the Buccaneers offense is averaging nearly 33 points per game, which is, of course, top 5 in the NFL as they have been all season. I do think that trend continues, but our good buddy Christopher Cole in the chat makes a great point. Says, I don't care if they win by 30 or 1, just win. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, a win is a win. Now, if you squeak by and it's a game full of sloppy turnovers and execution errors, and there's going to be some tough conversations to be had.
Yeah, it might affect your confidence heading into the wild card round, but
but I still think the Bucs are the better team. I think that they have every opportunity to prove that they are a better team, and they are a playoff ready team. Let's get into some game predictions here, break this thing down, and get out of here. I really don't want to get ahead of myself. The spread for this game is 14 points. I mean, we were talking about it before the show. When I first heard 14 points, I shouted, "Holy schmoly," at the top of my lungs. That's a lot of points for an NFC South division opponent. A division opponent that has always been stingy towards Tampa. With that, I mean, maybe more. There's people out there, I think, that are a lot more confident than you and I, but there's just this odd feeling in the pit of my stomach, Evan. We watched a lot of Bucs football over the course of this podcast, and this is one of those games. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but holy hell, man, it really feels like
would
a loss.
Would it really stun you?
Would
it really stun you?
It wouldn't. I think they win. Little spoiler alert on my game prediction, but there's something in the water this week. I don't think 14 points. I don't know if they cover that.
Well, it's a team obviously with nothing to lose against a team with everything to lose, and that's always dangerous. So, Saints have won 5 out of their last 6 games in Tampa. So the Saints have done a pretty good job against the Buccaneers in Tampa. Last year, the Buccaneers had a chance to clinch the NFC South against the Saints in Tampa and came up with a goose egg. So hopefully this time around it's a little bit different. But yeah, we will see what happens. But yeah, I think that's where it comes from, right? The fact that if New Orleans loses, their season goes on, right? Like their season goes on, they're done, and that's that, right? The Bucs lose, and it's, oh my God, like, is there going to be a coaching change? Is there this? Is there that? Like, they just had this collapse. Like, they lost to this team that they had no business losing to at home. Like, like, then what's going to happen there? So there is a ton more on the line for the Buccaneers than there is for the Saints. So, yeah, I definitely get the sense of, like, an uneasy feeling. The good thing is the Saints have nothing to play for, but they have nothing to play for, but they're also a bad football team.
Well, they also, I'm curious your thoughts. I know you've seen the chatter. They also really hate the Falcons. They hate the Falcons a lot more than they hate the Bucs, apparently. And a lot of Saints fans, we've even had some in our chat so far today for this episode. A lot of Saints fans are totally fine with laying down and giving Tampa Bay the upper hand just to spite Atlanta one last time.
I'm sure the fans are, but those players aren't. So they're going to want to go out there and perform. So I'm sure Spencer Rattler doesn't want to end his rookie season on a down note. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think that's where it comes from, right? When you're playing a team that just is expected to lose, and if they lose, nobody's gonna bat an eye, and that's they have nothing to lose, and that's dangerous.
I agree. We really haven't built up that tone of it throughout the episode, but this game quite literally means everything for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, this game is a microcosm of their 2024 season, because I think depending on how this goes, depending on how they look, and ultimately depending on if they win, we're just going to have 2 vastly different scenarios here. If you win, you go into the postseason, everybody feels good. I think everybody is still concerned about Liam Cohen and Todd Bowles, but I think Bowles still is the most likely scenario coming back as head coach. If you lose, like you said, Evan, you're having tough conversations about, have you peaked with Todd Bowles as your head coach? The Bucs have had ample opportunity this year to control their own destiny, and every single time they were faced with that opportunity, they crap the bed. That's with a loss. They haven't lost yet.
Yeah. And then, I'm gonna say right now, like, if they were to lose, and again, like, yeah, that's with a loss, and I don't think they're gonna, spoiler for mine too, I don't think they're gonna lose. But if they lose, I don't see how you can keep Todd Bowles as his team's head coach. I don't see how you can have this guy back in 2025. I don't see it. I don't see how would be any confidence to retain this guy, losing 2 of your last 3 games on the stretch. Like you said, had control of your destiny, not once but twice. Because remember, heading into that Dallas game, they controlled their own destiny, right? Then they lost that game and they gave it back to Atlanta. and then they had to get some help, and they did get some help. And now they control their destiny again. So you control your destiny twice and you fall flat 2 times in 3 weeks. I don't see how you can retain the head coach. So especially when you have an offensive coordinator that's doing what he's doing, I don't see how you can retain the head coach. But hopefully that doesn't come to that point. And like I said, the whole Bowles Cohen thing, you cross that bridge when you get to it. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't think they're gonna lose. But if they were to lose, again, that's the type of game that gets a coach fired.
31-21 is my final score prediction. I think it is close at times. I think things can get sketchy in the second and third quarter like they did the last time these two teams squared off. But the Bucs are the more complete team. They will be the more complete team down the stretch. And as long as they avoid costly mistakes, turnovers, shooting themselves in the foot, they should come out on the other side of this one A-okay. And I think they don't cover, but they make it a 10-point two-possession game there in the fourth quarter. So 31-21, my final score.
I think the Bucs barely don't cover. On the surface, it looks a little bit. I have 30-17 Tampa Bay. I just have a tough time seeing New Orleans score enough points. They scored 10 points against the Raiders, got shut out against the Packers. They've been struggling. And I just think this is an offense of New Orleans that doesn't have much talent right now. And I think if the Bucs offense doesn't hurt themselves, right, with penalties and turnovers, as we've seen in the past, I think they're going to be able to score some points, obviously. So, 30-17, my final score prediction, our final game preview of the 2024 regular season. So, I want to thank everybody for joining us for every regular season game preview. It's been a lot of fun. And with that, I think the Bucs are going to be crowned NFC South champions for the 4th straight season. This time at home, right? Last year had to be on the road in an ugly game against the Carolina, but this time at home would be pretty sweet to do it against the New Orleans Saints as well.
As they should. And your score prediction, I think there's definitely some traction there. One of the things that we haven't talked enough about, and I will wrap it up with this, but Todd Bowles, while we are going to talk about what needs to be improved, some of the issues people have, we are going to make sure we give him credit where credit is due, and we have done that all season long. If you don't think we have, you just haven't listened to the show, and that's perfectly fine. But Todd Bowles is really good at making adjustments. So 30-17, I could see it being a scenario where I don't know if they trail, but let's just say for your sake, 30-17, the final score. Let's say 14-17 at halftime. And they blank New Orleans in the offense in the second half. Todd Bowles is great at doing that, and I think that is also a factor in this week's game. As we wrap things up with a $5 super chat with Jay Level Up, says he's going to the Bucs game this Sunday, his first NFL game. Ooh. Let's go Bucs! Another round of applause. Clap it up for Jay Level Up. Thank you for donating to the Wendy's Fund.
Hope you enjoy the game.
Yeah, I also hope you enjoy the game, man. It is a unique atmosphere. A Tampa Bay Buccaneers home game, their final home game of the year, and it's a 1:00 game, and they're wearing the red and pewter uniforms, which they never do at 1:00 at home. So I am grateful for you. I'm almost a little bit jealous. But
they did last week, so hopefully it's a repeat of last week as well. So really quick though, about the Todd Bowles thing, just one note. In the last 6 games since the bye week, the Bucs defense in the second half has allowed a total in 6 games, a total of 23 points. So, that's in 6 games combined. 7 points against the Giants, 10 points against the Panthers, 3 points against the Raiders, 0 points against the Chargers, 3 points against the Cowboys, and 0 points against the Panthers.
I'm no statistician, but that's got to be...
I think it's pretty good.
It's got to be among the league's best.
I would say so.
I ain't no expert.
Yep.
But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this week's game preview edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast, the final one for the regular season. And if the Buccaneers lose on Sunday, it may be the final one of the year. But fingers crossed. I think the Bucs, I think they're going to...
Either way, win or lose, win, we're going to have to preview a playoff game to preview, right? Lose, and we'll still have a ton to talk about, trust me. So either way, we're going to have a ton of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it should be another exciting week for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot on the line, and it quite literally all comes down to this. But want to say thank you to everybody hanging out with us over in the live chat on YouTube. MK, Mikey Kelly, Eddie Nash, Jared Cox, Jay Level Up with the $5 super chat. Cannon Fire Crew Bry says 42-12 Bucs. Tall Florida Guy says, I'm thinking 24-21 New Orleans. Very interesting from Tall Florida Guy. Noah 2023 says Tampa Bay 45, New Orleans 16. A lot of offense is what the people expect from Tampa Bay this week, except for Tall Florida Guy. He thinks it's going to be a run-of-the-mill New Orleans Saints game. And listen, I'm not going to discount that feeling because I talked about that awful feeling in the bottom of my gut that I try to ignore and just push to the back, but we can't run from it anymore. There's no more regular season after this, so they have to win. Edwin Hernandez says 38-14 Bucs. Should be a great game this week. Shout out again to everybody. Dub, Christopher Cole, JT Olson, Larry Fisherman, Mr. One Buck for Life, Corey Hall, and anybody else that I may have missed. Thank you guys once again. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show and, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. You can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What have you got this week for the people? They hunger, my friend.
They are, and I'm feeding. All right. So, I mean, right now you can actually go, I Bleav it was posted like an hour ago. You can go on BucsNation.com right now, check out the Q&A that we did with the Saints website. Get a little bit more insight on what has been going on with New Orleans, right? It's been a while since the Bucs faced New Orleans. I Bleav it was week 6, I think. So it's been a little bit since the Bucs have faced the Saints. So see what's going on with them. Check that out on BucsNation.com. After the game, obviously going to have the Monday after reactions on social media. Bucs could be NFC South champs. There could be a bunch of people calling for the head coach's head. Who knows? But it's going to be one or the other, I feel. But we will see what happens in terms of video content. If you were listening on audio, we appreciate you listening on audio. But if you want a little bit more content, a little bit shorter form content, head over to the Cannonfire Podcast YouTube channel. Ahead of the game, we have Betting the Bucs. We have players to watch. After the game, obviously, we're going to have our post-game show. But then that following Monday, whether it's a Victory Monday or a Sorrow Close Down Shop Monday, we will have the best and the worst, and then all that good stuff. Maybe the Bucs will have a playoff game. We'll be able to do the players to watch and Betting the Bucs again, wild card edition. But yeah, all that is available on the Campfire Podcast YouTube channel. Go check it out, and thank you all for watching it all year. Really, I mean, as we close out, the regular season, the support has been really, really good. We can't. Really, none of this is possible without you guys, right? Without you guys watching and listening and enjoying the stuff, none of this, what we do is possible or really as fun, to be honest with you. If you guys aren't enjoying it, we want to make stuff that you guys like. So we appreciate all the support, and we appreciate the continued support. And hopefully 2025, we'll get an even bigger stuff coming soon.
Yeah, our first episode of 2025. So happy New Year to you and yours. Hope you had a great holiday season, and excited for another year of coverage. This will be our 9th year as a podcast, as an entity.
We're getting cooked. We are,
as the kids say, we are approaching unk status. I think is one of the things that they say. So on that note, it is a perfect time to end the show. Follow me on social media, Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. Before I embarrass myself any further, I will remind you, Sunday afternoon, win, lose, or draw, youtube.com/cannonfirepodcast. We will be live for the post-game review with a lot to talk about. I am your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucs.